up in motorcades. I got a show today, hustle and motivate. Got my name on the nose. No, you always going out your way. You always dropping off your flag. I'm feeling kinda cooped up. Okay, now girl, why you playing like that? Always trying to act like a brat. And they line as I walk. Come to my table, rest here in my garden. You will have a part.
All right, so we shall go ahead and get started. I think, let me get my life together real quick. Boom, boom. A little better. Close all them windows. All right, hello everyone. I am Lee with DevU, and today, on this day, we are going to talk about data types and variables. So this is the very beginning of our C# class. So that's where we start off, data types and variables. So what we're going to do is we're going to define what a variable is. We're going to talk about some of the commonly used data types. Then we're going to declare a variable and initialize a variable. Also, we're going to find out what those things really mean. So declare and initialize. So for people who are completely new to programming, those are probably uncommon words to you. So we want to get you more familiar with those, because one big part of learning programming is starting to pick up the language, understanding the lingo that's spoken, across, software developers everywhere. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share one of my screens. I guess this one is fine. All right, so again, just to reiterate, we're doing data types and variables, and we are going to talk about the commonly used variables, the commonly used data types, then jump right into declaring and initializing variables. In almost any language, Python, C#, Java, we use variables to store and reuse information. It makes your code easier to read, easier to understand, and easier to maintain. It also makes it easier to scale or grow. A variable allows us to keep something in memory. So imagine every time you had to refer to your brother, you'd have to say, that person that came from my mother's womb, that is a male and is this age or was born at this time. Like, that's a whole lot to say when you could just call your brother by his name. L. Yeah, that's L. Hey, L, can you come get that for me? Hey, L, can you help me out with this? Hey, L, you want me to help you out with something? And anytime you reference your brother, or for me, anytime I reference my brother, I don't say, hey, person that came from my mother's womb, that is a male and is this age or was born at this time. You just call them by name. Hey, L. You just have a reference around that person. And it makes it easier for the just common everyday language use. Now, you have to remember his name. You have to store that in your own memory. Like, this person is L. Okay. Store it, lock it in your memory, kind of holds in some memory box of yours. It has the person picture and the person's name. That's L. You associate this person, that name. That's what we have variables for. It holds a certain piece of information so that we can reference it by name instead of having to always reference it or kind of recreate something in our memory to reference this person by. And that's it. Like, it makes life easier. Like, it makes language easier. And it makes life easier to read. It makes life easier to understand, and makes life easier to maintain, I guess. So jumping back to what we have in this first statement around variables. So we say that variables are used to store and reuse information. When we talk about this information, getting started, we're going to focus on a specific type of information. Data type is just a type of information. So it's different type of information that you can save. You can save numbers, you can save characters, you can save true false values, you can save, I think that's pretty the baseline of the things that you can save. You have numbers, characters, true false values. And then you also have strings. Now the strings, I'll say that one last because strings is just a bunch of characters lined up. These are the commonly used data types, the ones that you'll see most in code, the ones that we're going to lean towards most throughout our course. Now, if you want more information on like some specifics and other primitive data types, we can have those sessions later on. But this is about where we need to start. So strings, a string is words, letters, or characters. So it can be full sentences, it can be a word, it can be a single character, it can be a special character like an exclamation mark or a question mark or a comma, or it can be like I said, full sentences or words. Anything that you can type into a document will be a character. Now, a character is just a single character. So it's just one character. It can't be a word, can't be two characters. It just have to correlate to one character. So one thing that you can type into a computer. And sometimes they can be represented by multiple characters, but that's another story. We'll get to that later in life. But it's just, for now, know that it's just one character. One thing to know, the difference between a string and a character, when you're creating a string, you use double quotes. And when you're creating a character, you use single quotes. Good way to remember that is, since a character is a single character, has single quotes. Leave that nugget with you. So next we have Boolean. Strange sounding word when you're first hearing it, but a Boolean is just a true or false value. So it can only be true, false, or null. Nope, it can only be true or false. So next we have integer. An integer, just like in math, it's a positive or a negative whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Negative integers, so you got negative 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, all the way down to negative, like, I don't know, 1.6 million or something like that. Next up, we have a double. A double is a negative, it's all negative and positive real numbers. So this one can have a decimal point. So it can be 1.235, negative 7.639. And then again, it has a certain range that's very large. I don't remember exactly what it is, but with a quick Google search, you can find out if you're very interested. Sweet. So these are common data types, the ones that we'll use most in most of our code. So next thing we said we're going to do. So we defined variables, or we talked about variables that are commonly used data types. Now we're going to quickly discuss declaring variables, and this one I come with a little code example. I might get you a little code example up in there too. Okay. So declaring a variable. So when you declare a variable, you're pretty much just speaking it into existence, or you're kind of going back to that whole memory thing. You're holding a space in memory to hold some information. When you declare a variable, going to my definition. When you declare a variable, you're creating a space in memory for a new variable and naming the new variable. So you're creating that space in memory, and then you're giving it a name. So you don't necessarily have to give it some value, or you don't have to give it a soul or life yet, but you're just saying, hey, I need to hold on to this space in memory for this thing, and you name it. And then you can go ahead and initialize it later. So we're going to move on to our next concept, which is initializing our variables. So when we initialize a variable, so what we're doing is we're giving it a value. We're giving that variable some life. We're giving it some information to keep in it. So we have this space in memory for some information. We have a name for it, but now we just have to insert some information in it. So when you initialize a variable, you are simply giving your variable a value. The way we do that in most coding languages, we just set it equal to it with a single equal sign using the name. So for the variables that we have, we can have, like for my int, we can set it equal to 7. My double, remember a double can have a decimal point, so we can set it equal to 7.5. A string, remember the string has double quotes, and that's what I was referring to when I said a string has double quotes. So when you set that value for a string, you have to make sure that you have your double quotes. And this is how we know that the information we're putting in here is a string. You don't have to do that for integers, and you don't have to do that for Boolean. You don't have to do it for doubles or any number for that matter. Unless you want to store that number as a string. Different thing though. So for here, we have my string, double quotes, 7, my Boolean equals true. Now, we just went over declaring and initializing a variable in 2 steps. 1, we declare it. 2, we initialize it. Now, we do have an ability to declare and initialize in 1 step. And different reasons cause for different solutions. So it's good to know both ways. For us, for now, it's probably easiest to do a lot of these in the 1 step. So to do it in 1 step, you'll say the type. Again, by saying that type, we're creating that space in memory to hold our variable. Then we give it a name, putting a name on it, and then we putting a value in it. So we do type name equals value. So it's pretty much taking that first step, type name, period, and then taking that second step, name value, period, and just kind of merging those together. So we have type name equals value. Get my video back on. Like I said, till next time. Thank you for stopping by. This is Dev U. Check us out. Holla at us. Join the class. Sign up. Go to devu.org. Follow us on Instagram. And learn code. Stay safe. Peace.
Make it easier for the world to change someday. Sometimes I contemplate some things my heart can't take. Why do we burn one another? Fight our pride, can't erase. Love gets you beyond, but don't you see it all? You start, you just have to believe in who you are. Who can love?
Man, you can't play
Can I love when they tell me I can't love myself?
Who can I love?
I should love someone else. Who can I love when they tell me I can't love myself? I should love someone else. Who can I love when they tell me I can't